Welcome everyone to One Brothas Mind with KD Smooth. In today's world, black first choices are mandatory. Choose wisely or your bondage will increase. You need all the information. This broadcast begins with my monologue and concludes with our discussion. Together, let's explore the facts, propaganda, lies, and hidden information to uncover the truth we need. Our work begins now. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is KD Smooth, and you're with One Brothas Mind. Coming back at you with another broadcast this evening. This evening's broadcast will cover and we'll discuss how black people can graduate college with zero debt. Ways or options for black people to graduate college with zero debt. That's what we're going to cover today on One Brothas Mind. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, to like, share, and subscribe. Trying to grow this channel. Appreciate all of your sharing and likes. We're going to chop it up on this. Our focus here at One Brothas Mind is to offer solutions. And again, with this broadcast, we're going to focus on some solutions to graduate college with zero debt, because there's too many of us that are currently or will be soon buried under student loan debt trying to attend college. Okay? I'm going to try to push through this and see if we can complete this play. A little bit of my personal college plan in regards to attending college and graduating with zero debt that I put together many years ago. But okay, you can still successfully use this first option today for you and your college student. Okay? So, let's look at what I did. Basic student, and I worked as a part-time employee at the Sizzler, at my local Sizzler Steakhouse. Yeah, I worked at the Sizzler, y'all. And I worked with current college students and recent college graduates. And right there is working with those individuals, especially the recent college graduates. That was something that just didn't set right with me. That didn't make sense to me. So basically, I started doing research as a sophomore, and I started sitting down with each of the recent college graduates, asking them basically the same question. And that was, why are you here working at the Sizzler, the same job that I have with me, and I'm a high school student, and you've already graduated college? And I asked them this question each individually. So what they were not privy to and did not know was each of them basically answered that question with the same mantra. And to summarize, it was, well, it's going to take, once you graduate college, it's going to take up to 2 years for you to land a job in your field of study. And each of them said that. And hearing each of them say that, I was like, okay, my hustle bells went off. My alarms was going on. I was like, nah, something's wrong with this. You know? Well, all I kept saying to myself was game, recognize game. So I'm like, how all of them saying the same thing? They all are dealing with this. And they had some other complaints. One of the other issues they had was not one of them were able to afford to live their own individual lives after graduating college. They was working at the Sizzler, yeah. And shortly after graduating college, they had to start paying payments back on their student loans. That was a big chunk of their income. So with the remaining income they had, they could not afford to live their own individual lives independently. Okay? They couldn't have their own apartment, definitely not a house and car and all this stuff. They couldn't afford it. Each of them had some sort of option where they were sharing living expenses with another person, whether it was a girlfriend, their wives, a roommate situation, or they lived at home with their parents, because they couldn't afford their independent lives and to live on their own on the income that remained after paying their student loan debt back. Those payments. Okay? And they expressed major frustration with that option. At least all the ones except for the ones that were living with their girlfriends. But even there was frustration there. So, and it was like, how long you been doing this? Some of them had graduated college 2, 3, 4 years ago and was still working at the Sizzler. And these, just as a side note, y'all, these were white graduates. And they were struggling to find jobs in their career fields of study. So immediately, for me, I was like, so what do I think is going to happen to me? It's going to be at least the same, if not worse. So I made up my mind after talking to them right then and there. I repeat, I am not signing for no student loan to go to college. There's got to be another way to do this. And I discovered there was by doing more research. Like I said, initially, I also worked with current college students that were currently taking classes, and they too were working at the Sizzler. So there was only a couple of them, but I sat down with each one of them and interviewed them. And I asked them, if you're taking college, you're in college, right? They, yeah. Why are you working in here at Sizzler and you taking college classes? They explained, well, I'm doing this because the money that I'm making, I am paying for my college classes as I take them. So that when I graduate, I won't owe any money. I won't have any debt to pay after I graduate. I'll be able to graduate, go after my new job in my career field of study, and whatever, when I get that, all my money is mine. I don't have to pay back us to do. So that became the basis of my new plan. But I didn't stop there, y'all. Said, is there anything else that I could do or other things? And I asked them further questions. And I learned that there's also employers, I should say, that offer tuition reimbursement programs to their employees. So I did my research on that and confirmed that. And basically at that time, it was in my area only the larger employees or employers, I should say, that offered those programs. So the only trick was I had to get a job get hired on at one of those larger employees that offered the tuition reimbursement. It didn't matter what job I had. I could be the janitor, I could be the guard shack ticket man, or whatever. As long as I was an employee, I have access to that tuition reimbursement. And within tuition reimbursement, that employer would pay 100% of my actual class cost. They don't pay for books and other incidental expenses, but they do pay up to 100% of the cost for your class. The second part of tuition reimbursement is you have to pay for your semester cost in tuition up front. I'm going to repeat that. You have to pay for your tuition up front. Start your college semester. Okay? And once you complete your semester, basically you get a document from your school that lists what your grades are, what your GPA is for your classes, and what the tuition cost was, the class cost for your classes. And you turn that in to your employer, usually the HR department, and within a couple of weeks, they cut you a check for that amount. They basically give it back to you. Okay? And if you're smart, all you do is then turn that money and flip it and pay more of your tuition going forward. Okay? And you just keep doing it until you complete and graduate college. Okay? So once understanding that tuition reimbursement program, I said, there it is for me. I'm not going to sign a student loan like most other of my high school student friends. I'm going to get a job at one of the larger employers and run this tuition reimbursement. Can't talk today. Tuition reimbursement hustle. So I don't finish college with any debt. Because even as when I was young, debt was not and has never been my thing. I don't want no debt. So I did that. I put that in my plan, and trust me, y'all, when I told my parents and others, people, close friends and whatnot, what my plan was, they all looked at me like I was crazy. They laughed at me. You know, I had elders was like, no, you gonna mess up. You gotta go and get your student loan and go on and do it right now. And or they was big. They said, you messing up. I'm like, no. You know, I just listened to them, and it went in one end and out the other. I'm like, I'm not putting myself in the hole financially just to, but that's how you supposed to do it now. Come on now, you gonna mess up. So ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, that was my plan that I came up with, which is option one. You'll see in a moment, for completing college with zero debt. Also, just a side note, ladies and gentlemen, I also completed, while in high school, as a high school student, a vocational certification program at my high school. Okay? But I'll get into that a little more later. Okay? So, again, the whole issue of signing for student loans, if you talk to other college graduates that you know, other black college graduates, most of them are still dealing with student loan debt to this day, and many of them, I mean thousands, hundreds of thousands of them are buried, and it's caused them a whole bunch of financial problems along the way. So get that point. The student loan game is a scam. If you have no other option, and that's the only one, I repeat, you must pay your student loan off as quickly as you can after you graduate. That's the only way to dig yourself out of that hole. And everybody says that's what they're going to do. And then after they graduate, guess what? They're free, they're young, they want to live their lives, you know, start having relationships and our marriage, start having kids, and our life catches up with you, and you're not really paying your student loan or paying on it as much and as fast as you can, and life happens, and you get to a point where you can't afford to pay on it anymore, then you're stuck. Okay? Don't make that mistake. All right, so let's look at option one, ladies and gentlemen, the plan that I put together. As you see on your screen, each of these listed items are all required for you to do and take advantage of with option one. Option one is, in general, the cheapest option for attending college and graduating with zero debt. We're going to start there. These options, these listed items are in no particular order. They all are required as a part of option one to successfully do it. So we're going to briefly go through them. I've already described to you guys the job tuition reimbursement option and how that works. Like I said, you have to pay for your semester cost up front, maintain a minimum GPA, usually like at least a C student in college, and then after you complete your semester, get your documentation from your school as far as the cost and your GPA, and turn that into your employer's HR department, and then they will cut you a check to give you that money back. But the big part of that is you actually have to have a job that does pay tuition reimbursement. More employers offer that option today, so that's a great thing. More people can take advantage of that option, but that's a major key factor. Speaking of paying for college, if you look down toward the bottom of your screen of option one, I have other money sources for also, helping you pay for college in this option. You need to be, or your student needs to be, a high GPA, high school GPA student. Okay? The higher the GPA they have, the more scholarships that they may qualify for and potentially get. The more scholarships they get, that's free money for college. That helps pay that college expense and bills, and especially everything else that the tuition reimbursement does not cover. Okay? We recommend that your student needs to be basically maintain a 4.0 GPA in high school, or at minimum at least a 3.5. They're not there yet. Work with them, y'all. Figure out how to get them there. They want to go to college. You want them to go to college and do it successfully. Okay. There's also the FAFSA option. I forget what the acronym is for, but basically it's the government's free money for low-income families and persons to help pay for college. Okay? And as far as I know, currently you can get up to around $6,000 as a maximum, or anything less than that, depending on your income level, if you're low income. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, if you qualify for any of the other assistance programs, and most likely you then also qualify for FAFSA, at least for the first year of your student's college. I'll get into that first year issue as we move forward. You also can get more information on the FAFSA funding from your student's high school, their guidance counselor department. They can help provide you with more detailed information on it, but definitely look to take advantage of that if you think you qualify. Okay, don't leave that on the table. That's free money, y'all. Next, if you have a high GPA, high school performing student, 3.5 or higher, oftentimes their teachers and are your students' high school, they are aware of and can connect you with, or connect your student with, paid like summer internships in various different fields. Okay? Various different fields. Basically, they're like summer school programs that your student would get paid for. There's some that pay $500,000. Some go all the way up. They'll pay like $2,500. And you just have to attend these programs and complete them successfully, meeting all of their requirements. And at the end, you get paid. Free money, y'all. Okay? Don't miss out on these. And also, a lot of these programs offer the students that get accepted to them free laptops. Brand new. So, for a lot of parents, especially parents that, at least right now, are reporting lower income levels, you know, you may be struggling, like, how am I going to get my son or daughter a new computer and the things that they need, not only for high school, but for college? Here's another way, y'all. Again, we offer solutions here at One Brothas Mind. And then also there's grants, and the same thing with grants applies with scholarships. And then lastly, ladies and gentlemen, literally, you're working. Your students working. They got to save some money, y'all. They got to save as much money as they can. So overall, as far as funding and money, you're looking at all of these different sources that you need to explore and implement and use to put together the money that your student needs to pay for college as they go, so they can graduate with zero debt. Okay? Now, again, here with option one, we're looking at trying to put together what would be the cheapest way to do or attend college. Many of us, we live in areas where we have local city colleges and things of that nature, and we don't live far from those. So the cheapest option would be for your student to live at home and just travel each day, whether it be by car or public transportation, to the school campus, college campus, and take their classes, and then travel back home. Okay? That option, you have no living or dorm expenses. So that's a significant expense that is not on your college student's tuition bill. Saves money. But to do that, be clear, parents, you have to have a pretty great relationship with your child, with your high school student. Okay? You have to have a good relationship. A low stress relationship. Does your child mind you? Do they feel your rules and requirements are ridiculous? Or have you been able to raise your child and, they're not going to agree with everything, but for the most part, they cool and they not breaking their neck trying to hurry up and move out of your house, okay? And get away from you, okay? And this is specifically for those who would like to use option one, the cheaper option, because there's no dorm room expenses to graduate college with zero debt. Okay? So if it's not as good as it can be, y'all parents, you got to work on that. You got to build it. Talk to your kids. Make plans. Work on it together. Let them know what you need from them. ask, listen to them so they can tell you and express to you what they need from you to be successful at this. Okay? Also, going further down the list, if they're living at home and attending college, then their food expenses are generally going to be lower because they're eating the food you have right there at home for the most part. Whereas in contrast, if they're living on campus in the dorm rooms, their food expenses is added to their tuition, and they're also a lot of times I should say they're gonna be eating extra fast food and all kind of other stuff. So in general, their food expenses are going to be more if they're living on campus than it will be if they're living at home with you. Okay? Again, where our focus with option one is try to come up with the cheapest option to get it done to graduate college with zero debt. That's what we're doing with option one. Okay. Also, with option one, if you're going to be attending a local city college in your area and living at home, then not only do you have to have consistent, reliable transportation to your job. Remember, we're working a job full time here. You have to have transportation, consistent, reliable, to be able to take your part-time classes. Okay? Reliable, consistent, whether you got a used hoopty, a car, or you're using public transportation, whichever route y'all decide to go. The cheaper option in most cases, unless you inherit, your student inherits a good used car from somebody, in most cases the cheaper option is going to be public transportation. But you got to go through and get in the details of both of those options and figure out which one is going to work best for you. Okay? And I've already mentioned the issue about the relationship with your child. It has to be good enough to where your child, primarily, both of y'all, but primarily your child, your college student, has to feel living at home with you and attending college and doing their homework and all that stuff. They're able to do it because it's a low stress environment, living at home with you or y'all. Okay? And again, going down further the list, they're going to have to, at least in most cases, work full time to qualify for the employer tuition reimbursement program. Okay? In most cases. All right? And the money that they make from working full time, they have to save it and use it to help pay for any and all remaining expenses, books, things of that nature. Okay? Because there are going to be additional expenses. There are going to be additional expenses even in this option, because the tuition reimbursement is not going to pay anything. They're not going to pay everything. They're only going to pay for the price of your classes. You still got to get your books. You're going to have, obviously, some kind of transportation costs, or you're going to have to buy a car, good hoopty. There's other expenses that you're going to have to maintain. So let's briefly look at those. To do that successfully, what we recommend here at One Brothas Mind is that around the time your high school student becomes a sophomore in high school, is usually around the time when they become old enough to basically get a job, according to the high school. I'm not going to get into that issue, but in theory, that's what it is. Okay? Now, can you execute option one if you go get a job at McDonald's? Possibly. But the focus on your high school student getting a job is for them to get a job making the maximum amount of money per hour that they can. it is recommended that you target $20 an hour jobs or somewhere there very close to it. Okay? As a high school student. Now, as you see on your screen in the upper picture, there's a good number of like warehouse pick and pack jobs that are available. You know, your FedEx, UPS, Amazon, post office. There's a lot of those type of jobs that are available, and especially now they hiring like crazy. Okay? So many students potentially could be able to get one of those jobs, and if they can handle it, because they are demanding to a certain extent, they can handle it. That could be their job that provides them with the money that they need to be able to save to pay for all their remaining college expenses. Okay? But in addition, as you see on your screen below at the lower portion, like I said, there are paid internship jobs. There's also jobs that you can get from, or your student can get from, vocational certification programs that they are attending and completing while in high school. So let's take a moment to talk about vocational certification programs. We're not going to go into it heavy because we're going to really go into it heavy toward the end of this broadcast. But parents, you need to try to confirm whether or not your current student's high school or soon to be expected high school, if they offer vocational programs. And if they don't, you need to seriously consider, and really you need to do research to find what high schools in your city do offer vocational programs, especially certificate and license vocational programs. Okay? Many schools offer these, and you really want to get your child set up and on path to be able to take advantage of these type of programs, because if they take them in high school, first thing is they're basically free. That's number one. Number two, upon graduating and completing these programs, they will graduate with either a certification or a license, or both, in a particular profession for free. Okay? So that's a hell of a head start for them. And with that license or certification, they then will be able to, as a high school student, be able to apply for and get jobs or higher paying jobs. Like I said, jobs that's paying right at $20 an hour or so, maybe a little more. And then therefore be able to earn the money they need to help pay for the remaining expenses for their college while they're in college. Okay? So that's the general idea on the vocational or working while in high school plan. The other thing that working while in high school will do for the student and for you as the parent, it will help identify whether your student has the ability to work, do their classes, and work their job and still maintain a high GPA. Like I said, preferably 4.0, minimum 3.5. Okay? If you'll quickly be able to see once they start working, can they do it, or are their grades dropping? And the suggestion here from One Brothas Mind, ladies and gentlemen, is if their grades start dropping after they start working, then they may not be able to handle it. They may need to stop working. Go back to just focusing on school. Okay? And if that's the case, working and trying to go to college may not be a good fit for your student. But for the ones that can maintain their high GPA and work their job, the option is wide open for them. Okay? Also, another aspect about maintaining a high GPA, ladies and gentlemen, many of us already know this, but for those who don't, most high schools offer honors classes and AP courses. These are, for those who don't know, higher level courses that require more work and effort by the student. You know, they maintain higher academic standards in these courses, in contrast to the regular standard high school classes. If at all possible, courses, primarily because it's these courses that are going to help your student get more prepared for the level of work that they're going to have to do, the level of classwork that they're going to have to do in college. It's not college level work, but it's way higher than the work for the regular high school courses and classes that are required. Okay? So if they can get enrolled and are taking honors and HP classes or AP classes while in high school, and then also maintain high GPAs while doing so, and they're working, you almost there. You got something to work with. You got a good shot at this. Okay? All right. We already covered the scholarships and other options for funding. And again, those options, ladies and gentlemen, are to help cover the extra expenses that tuition reimbursement would not cover. Okay, like books and having to get a used car or paying for your public transportation, etc. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's option one. Now, let's look at option two. Option two, ladies and gentlemen, starts early. That's the point of what you see on your screen. Option two starts very early. Okay? If you have a student that's in the 6th or 7th grade, you need to start putting together option two now. Right now. 6th or 7th grade. Okay? First part of that option, of option two, you need to make sure that your student is enrolled in a good or high standard, academic standard middle school. One that is ensuring that your child is learning how to be a good student and maintain high GPAs early. Okay? I'll say this, most public schools don't fit this description. I can tell you that right now. Most. There are some, but most don't. Okay? So, parents, 6th, 7th grade, you need to be looking into other school options, like charter schools and other school options that maintain higher academic standards and requirements from your student. Try to get them used to that environment early. Okay? Get them on the right path. Also, the conversations that you're having with your child about, things that they're interested in, you need to be having them. If you ain't already started, you need to be having them around 6th, 7th grade. What types of things do they like? What are they interested in? What do they see themselves maybe doing as a profession when they get older? Do they see themselves going to college, etc.? Have those conversations and discussions early. For many, you'll start to get ideas of what they're interested in, things they like, and early while in middle school. If you make the phone calls you can take that are, related to what they're interested in. Okay? Set them up with those classes. Encourage their interest. All right? In addition, while in 6th or 7th grade, this is another requirement. Parents, you have to start doing your high school research now. Why? Because, as we say here at One Brothas Mind, you need all the information. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please like, share, and subscribe. Please share on all your social media platforms. Help us grow this channel. But parents, you need all the information. So you have to start gathering your high school information and putting together this option 2 plan early. And the specific information, not only finding out if the high school the district that you live in is a good high school and all that, but you need to find out if they offer certificate licensing vocational programs. Okay? If they do not, or even if they do, you need to also find out what other schools in your city, in your area, cross town, whatever, which ones offer vocational certification licensing programs. Make a list. What programs specifically are the certification licensing programs? Okay, that's extremely important. And I've already explained that, because when they graduate high school or just before, they would attain those certificates and licenses and be able to get a job in that field, career field, and put themselves in the position to be making right at $20 an hour or more, just from their high school free vocational certification and licensing programs. Okay? Which, that amount of money definitely makes paying for college and expenses much more affordable. Right? Okay. So as you gather that information, depending on what you discover, either you already live in a school district that has a vocational program that matches the interests that your child has, or if not, you need to look at potentially relocating to the district that does, or within the district that does. That's work you as a parent have to do, if need be. A third option would be, if you may not live inside the school district that has the vocational programs that we're looking for, but you live close enough to it to where you would be able to transport your your child to school when they go to high school on a daily basis. Because if you don't live within the district, that will be required. There will be no school bus service if you live outside the district. Which, for some, that's a workable option. But either way, the point is to get your student in a high school or set to attend a high school that has vocational certification licensing programs, especially ones that match their interests. If you need to, while 6th, 7th grade, take a day off from school. You take a day off from work. Take your child, go visit a few of these high school vocational school programs. Do a tour. Ask for a tour. Many of them will give those tours to you. Okay? All you do is make some phone calls. You and your student can walk around. They would actually be able to visibly see the auto mechanic program or the laboratory science program, the medical programs, the IT vocational programs, the barber and beauty programs, whatever the programs are, the electronics program, whatever they are, they would be able to see them. That's especially good if they really don't have any idea what they may be interested in. They might see something that grabs them like, hey, oh, that looks kind of cool. I might want to do that. Okay. Utilize that option. Go do tours at these schools that have vocational programs. Ask questions, especially confirming the programs that they have that are certificate or licensing or both. Okay? Gather this information early. Figure out if you need to relocate. If so, make that happen. You got a couple years, but make it happen. And then you're set. You're ready. Your student is ready to go. Okay? So after you've put in this work, early work, and your student is, performing and maintaining good GPA, good high GPAs, then you can move right on into option 2 of attending and graduating college with zero debt. Okay? A lot of the information is the same, but as you see on your screen, ladies and gentlemen, we've highlighted some distinct differences between option 1 and option 2. Okay? And we're going to go over these briefly. Again, all of these listed items are required to successfully use option 2 to graduate college with zero debt. Okay? Starting at the top, this is an option if your student is going to attend an out-of-state college, or it may even be a city college that's really far away from where you live currently, that it's not logical to try to drive to every morning, each day for classes. It's too far away. Okay? So this fits both of those options. So we're going to start with money. Funding. How do you do this? All right. 1, your student, especially if you've been able to get your student to start working while they are a high school student, and they've proven and demonstrated that they were able to work and keep their GPAs high, great. So they're already on path. And trust me, you put the rule in when they first started working, like, okay, if your grades drop, you're gonna quit this job. Make that a requirement. But if they've proven that they can work and still maintain 3.5 GPA or higher, preferably a 4.0, outstanding. They're on their way. Also, if they're enrolled in certification, licensing, vocational programs at the same high school, they're in AP classes, like I mentioned, which is preparing them for the level of work that they'll have to do at college, or somewhat preparing them. Great. So now in option 2, once they have a job that they're making close to $20 an hour, they can work the entire summer, preferably of their junior and senior year. Okay? And save the majority of their money that they're making. They need to keep that money. They can't just ball out with that money, y'all. That money is the money that's going to pay for their first semester or first year of college, depending on how much they save. Okay? The summer break time is the biggest time for them to earn money, to earn the most money they can. So they can't mess that up. Okay? So they work the whole summer or both summers, whichever case may be, and they save up all the money that they can. If they are a good GPA performing student and they're in AP classes, they also, hopefully you guys have asked about and found some summer paid internship classes that your student can take advantage of, so they can work their summer job and then in the evenings or summer job. Now they doubling up. They stacking money like crazy. Okay? Also, getting a distance away from your home where they're living on campus, if they've proven that they can work and maintain their GPA, there's a good chance they may be able to pick up a job while they're in college and continue to save money. Okay? But again, this is out of state or a college that is pretty far away from home, so they have to live on campus in a dorm room. And again, that expense is going to be added to their whole bill, which is why they need to be working and making as much money as they possibly can the entire time, especially over the summers. Okay? In addition, to cover those costs and continue to stack money, they're also going to have to work during the other breaks of college. Spring break, fall break, Christmas break, all those breaks. Especially if they have at least, the break is about approximately a week long. They need to try to find a way to work during those breaks. So if they have a part-time job and they're on campus and they're out of state, there's jobs available there. Especially if you have, or if they have a certification already in something or a license. Okay? And I'm not telling you about what I think or my opinion. I'm telling you what I know. I have a current, right now today, I have a college student that's in college right now. Okay? We utilize this option 2 plan. I did everything. Every one of these things that I've told you about, we did it. I did it. And now she has a job that she works. She makes close to $20 an hour. She works that job on all her breaks. And she makes enough money to pay her full tuition every year. And still have money in her pocket. Okay? So I'm not telling you about something I think. I'm telling you what I know. Her vocational class that she completed while in high school, she was interested in the medical field. You know, I went through that whole 7th grade process that I explained earlier. I was like, okay. At the time, this was about the 7th or 8th grade, she told me that. I worked at one of the larger hospitals in my area. Okay. And the hospital had its own laboratory department. Okay. So when she told me that, what I did while at work, I made the contacts I needed to make to basically set my daughter up with a job shadow in the laboratory for a couple of days. It's about the 7th or 8th grade. Okay? And it may have even been she was in the 9th grade. I'm trying to remember. It was no later than the 9th grade when I did the job shadow thing. Okay? So basically I contacted that head of that department at my employer, left a voicemail, told him what I was looking to do. I had to also coordinate to get it done with the employer's volunteer department to get my daughter connected and applied, accepted as a volunteer. That gave her the ability to be on site within the hospital. And then we were off and running. She got her 2 or 3 days of job shadow. She shadowed with multiple different laboratory staff. And in a couple days she got done. She basically told me, I don't want to be a scientist no more. And I asked her why, and she said, it's boring. All they do is sit there in the room and just look into the little microscopes and everything. That part is cool, but it's boring. They just sit in the lab all day and they don't really do nothing. I was like, okay. All right. So scientist is not going to be the move. So then I was like, what else? She's like, maybe I can do something. She started leaning more toward the medical care field, like nursing or stuff like that. And this vocational program that her high school had, this medical program that she was about to start for her sophomore year, they literally had the medical program that had 2 wings or 2 paths, a science path and a nursing path. So by the time she finished that shadow, she knew she didn't want to get the science path, so she said, I'll just let me try the nursing path. Okay. So that's what she did. So started beginning her sophomore year. She was in that vocational program, and the program was set up so that if she completed the 3-year vocational program, she would graduate with a certification and license as a CNA. Okay? That's what she would graduate with, as long as she completed that program. Which that's a big step in regards to moving into and becoming an RN. So she completed that program, maintained a high GPA. Okay? And approximately 2 months before her senior year ended, the vocational program, she took her state test to become a CNA, a licensed CNA, and she passed, and boom, done. Prior to that, she actually had to complete some on-site job training as a CNA. The vocational program set all that stuff up, coordinated that part where she had to do so many hours as a CNA, where literally she did not go to class. She went to a care facility and was trained as a CNA, and she got class credit for that as a part of this program. Okay, so it was hands-on, y'all. So then again, about 2 months before she graduated, she took and passed the CNA state test, and she was a licensed CNA before she even graduated. And she did such a good job that the employer where she trained at to be a CNA, After she got her license, they immediately hired her. And like I said, they're paying close to $20 an hour. Okay? So the last couple of months of high school, as far as their vocational class, she didn't even have to come to class anymore. She just was working. She literally was working as a CNA. For the most part. Getting paid. Saving money for college. Okay? Graduated. Continued to work that job the entire summer. Saving money for college. So once the whole dust was settled as to what college she was going to go to, and in my case, my daughter attends, it's not an out-of-state college, it's an in-state college, but it's too far away to commute to on a daily basis, way too far away, so she lives on campus. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we utilized all of the funding options listed on the lowest item on your screen. We utilized all of them. Every one of them, y'all. The FAFSA too, all of them. And together, that provided us with enough money to pay for her college, to get her started. That first semester paid for, and had money left over. I'm talking thousands left over to go toward the second semester. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. And again, during her breaks from college, spring break, fall break, Christmas break, things of that nature. Actually, on her Christmas break, she actually earned, while working, her part-time job. She finished earning the rest of the money she needed to pay for her second semester. And it's toward the end, just before her break ended, she paid her second semester in cash. Still had money left over though. Okay? So it is doable, y'all. My student is literally doing this right now. I'm not just blowing smoke at you. Okay? Again, going down the list from the dorm, you gotta have a great parent-child relationship. A low-stress relationship. Now, like most soon-to-be college students, most of them, they don't want to live at home. They want to go somewhere and live on campus in a dorm. But again, that's a more expensive option. I was pushing the live at home option because she got accepted to other local colleges in our area, several of them. Here's what's required. You got to work. You got to save your money. Those are the two requirements. So you have enough money to pay the cost to do it the way you want to do it. She said, okay. We sat down, calculated the calculations. I showed her, this is how much money you got to make. This is how much your year of tuition is going to cost. Here's how you're going to earn your money and how you need to do this. Okay. And she's been off and running ever since. Okay? Yes, living on campus, as I said, food cost is higher. I get on there every day about trying to eat too much fast food. You've paid your tuition, use your food, your meal card more. Keep your money in your pocket. Okay? While being on campus, instead of having transportation every day to and from campus, when you live on campus or out of state, the only thing you're looking at is potentially having to have transportation to get back home for your breaks from college. Okay? airfare, or if it's just a couple of hours drive to and there to get back home, so they can work their job that they currently have. Okay? The other option with that transportation and job issue, like with my student, her being a licensed CNA, while on campus, around and near her campus, there's other care facilities and hospitals. She can apply for jobs there and get a job right in the campus area where she's in school at. She could potentially work that job on the weekends. Like I said, put in a couple of 8-hour shifts on the weekends. But if that's too much, she can at least work that job during her college breaks. Fall break, spring break, Christmas break, summer break. Well, not summer break, but you get the picture. Okay? Got to utilize all the ways to stack up chips to save money. Okay? Like I said, you end up, in this option 2 scenario, in most cases, you're going to be working part-time while college is in session. But then in the summertime, you're going to be working full-time. May even put in a little overtime. Anything to, again, stack paper. Okay? And this is as a college student. This is also as a high school student. Stack paper, stack paper. Okay? But again, like I said before, going down the list, your student has to be able to maintain their high GPA while working. If they can't, you're not going to be able to work and do this. If your GPA is dropping and too low, you're not going to get accepted in most colleges, if any at all. So the GPA is the most important piece. As long as that stays right, then you add the work piece. And as long as both of those stay good, and you save, which is the third piece, and seek money from all of the other listed sources on the bottom, you're on your way. Okay? So that's option 2, y'all. And like I said, each of the checked items are required to execute option 2 and graduate college with 0 debt. All of these listed items are required. Okay? So as you can see, students exercising this option, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, this is how they would be smiling. They would be happy. Because they get to basically kind of have their own apartment while living on campus. That's what most of them want to do anyway. Okay? All right. Again, there's a lot of expenses with college. You pay your tuition and you're living on campus, your books are an additional expense. That's not a part of the cost of tuition. That's separate. So you definitely still need additional money beyond your tuition fees. Okay? And it's helpful to have some pocket money too. Okay? All right. So I've mentioned a couple of times already the importance of the high school vocational certificate programs already. Let's dig into those a little bit more here as we come to a close of this broadcast. First off, I want to say for those of us family, all of us don't have kids who, where school is, is not their thing. We don't have, A students. Everybody doesn't have that. Many of us have students that they're average students. They get C students, but they ain't really feeling and tripping off of school. They're not. You may be trying to push them to go to college and this and this and that, but they kind of like, okay, all right. They ain't really feeling it. All right, and one of the ways is by what kind of GPA they're carrying. Are they taking AP classes in high school? Are they maintaining a high GPA? They're a C student. Option 1 or option 2, just college in general, may not be the best option for them. But do not fear. There's vocational schools. There's the vocational option in high school. Like I said, a lot of these schools have great vocational programs that are certificate or license or both programs. If your student's an average student and they're not really feeling this whole school or college thing, there's still the reason why you need to try to guide your student to a high school that has these vocational programs, so that when they graduate, they at least graduate with a certificate or a license in something that they can immediately go out into the workforce and get a job making close to $20 an hour or a little more. They can live off of that, y'all. So if that college is not their thing, okay, fine. They can be able to make their way. They have earned a skill for free while in high school. Because if you don't take advantage of these programs now while you're in high school, or when your child is in high school, after they graduate, trust me, they're going to figure it out pretty quickly. They can't make much money unless they one of the few that got hired on at the FedEx or Amazon place, whatever, and they're getting about at least $20 an hour there, or something like that. But other than that, they're just a laborer. Okay? And laborers y'all know they pay slave wages. They've been doing that forever. You can't live off of slave wages. So they're going to find out and figure it out really quickly. If they didn't take advantage, or you didn't push them to take advantage of the vocational programs while in high school. And they're going to be like, man, I got to do something. There's vocational programs that are available after high school, but guess what? Now you got to pay for them. Just like college, you got to pay for these. And some of them ain't that cheap. Why not take the program while your student is in high school for free? Okay? So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to conclude this broadcast with the conclusion of my college story. I started off earlier sharing with you guys the research and the plan that I put together. Now I'm going to share with you guys how my plan worked out for me. Like I said previously, I interviewed the recent college graduates and current college students at the Sizzler that I worked at. I got that information, put my plan together of working, receiving tuition reimbursement from an employer that offers that, and going to college that way. So I could graduate with zero debt, move forward. Well, it actually took me more time or longer than I had planned for to attain one of those jobs at an employer that offered tuition reimbursement. But eventually, it worked out. I got it. and I just stuck with it. I didn't give in and just go ahead and grab a student loan, and it took way longer than it was supposed to. Something interesting happened when I did. The job that I got at that employer, shortly after starting it, I was informed that basically that job had unlimited overtime available. So I ended up initially, all I did was work a bunch of overtime. I postponed starting my college classes and semester to take advantage of all that overtime. I did that for a little while, y'all. Doing that, I actually earned the same amount of salary that I would start off earning once I graduated college. Okay? So I was earning it. The only extra cost, I had to work overtime hours to get it. But hey, I was making it do what I can do when I can do what I can do. You know what I'm saying? So eventually the point came where the unlimited overtime ended, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to start my classes, sign up and utilize this tuition reimbursement program. But then another interesting thing occurred. This employer that I worked at, it was a hospital, y'all. I worked in the medical field. They had a wide variety. Most hospitals do. They have a wide variety of jobs and careers that are available at that type of employer. And if y'all remember, I mentioned to y'all early on in the broadcast that while in high school, I attended and completed a vocational certification program while in high school for free. Mine was electronics. Okay, I completed a 3-year certification program, and that certification program and certification was the equivalent of an associate's degree for me, and I got it for free in high school. Like I said, it was the equivalent of an associate's college degree. I had that when I graduated. Okay? So now, fast forward. I'm working a job at this employer that does tuition reimbursement. I'm starting the process to sign up for my classes to start college. And in that process, I checked the job board at this employer, and they had a job posted. It was a job I had never heard about, didn't know anything about, but it was called a biomedical technician. Okay? I read the description of what the job did and what the requirements were, the educational requirements were. Guess what? The educational requirements was an associate's degree in electronics or the equivalent. Yeah, right. I already had that. So I applied for that job. I was hired to that job and got upgraded 4 days later. Okay? So I actually, because of my certificate vocational program, I ultimately got the exact job or the same level of a profession, job, and career that I would have gotten if I had completed an associate's or bachelor's degree from college. So, y'all quick, yeah, I never signed up for those college classes. I never took out a student loan, never signed up for those professional college classes in that profession, because I already was in there. Okay? I later did attend college for something completely different, because I wanted to actually add a second profession to my repertoire. I actually went to Bible college, y'all, just in case y'all wondering. But that was a personal desire for myself. That wasn't something I was looking to do you know, as my only profession, that was extra. And my employer paid tuition reimbursement for that one, for that college expense. So yes, I did take advantage of it, just worked out differently. But ultimately, I took advantage of the tuition reimbursement. So that's the ending of how things worked out for me. And I worked as a biomedical technician for 20 plus years, y'all. You know, that's not a commonly known healthcare field, but it's a very good paying or high paying healthcare field option, you know, especially for those who have kids that are, you know, kind of like screwdriver tinkerers and, you know, technology tinkerers. It's an extra one to put on your list, y'all, as a potential option. Okay? So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, please like, share, and subscribe. Because here at One Brothas Mind, we try to focus on solutions. You know, you may listen to other channels and broadcasts. You know, they're really good about identifying the problems that we face and complaining about. You see what they did here, you see what they did there, but what I've noticed, not many of them actually provide solutions, options. What can we do about it? How can we get around these obstacles and barriers? That's the whole purpose of this broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, and all of our broadcasts here at One Brothas Mind. We trying to provide options, solutions, alternative solutions. Because like I said, we got to do what we can do when we can do what we can do. Right? And with all the craziness going on with this predator that we're dealing with now, and the ooh-wee, and once again, ladies and gentlemen, the ooh-wee here at One Brothas Mind is that thing that they're trying to get everybody to get. They want to force you to get. We call it the ooh-wee. So with all this craziness going on with the predator and the ooh-wee, employment and careers and professions they're all over the place, y'all. So the best that we can do is equip ourselves and equip our children so that we're not just so-called raising them and then once they graduate high school, we're just kicking them out the house. We have to stop doing that. You're setting your child up for failure. You're not giving them options. And it doesn't matter whether you went to college or you did not go to college yourself. Especially now, I've laid it out for you step by step. Play this video, rewind it, take screenshots of the plans, follow them. You don't have to be a college graduate yourself as a parent to follow these plans to help your child be a college graduate and put them in the best place possible by not having no debt when they graduate. Even if you did graduate college and you're one of many of us who are, well, not including myself, but many of us in the family who are still buried under college debt, your child doesn't have to experience the same thing you experience. You just do it differently. Do it differently. Give them options. It's doable. As a side note, family, sisters, mothers, I mean, this goes both ways. I'm going to say that before I say what I'm about to say, but I got to say this. I got to offer it. What we understand is one of the top percentages of people going to college today and taking out student loans. Black women. Okay, that's great. There's no problem with that. But again, for those that graduate and now they got these student loans, if you don't pay your student loan back right after you graduate and pay it off as fast as you can consistently and get rid of it, you get stuck with that student loan. And as y'all know, there's many of us that got 30, 50, 80,000 or more of student loans still in our name today. Today. Okay? And the reason why I focus what I'm about to say with ladies is, sisters, just real quick, come close, listen. If you got $70,000 of student loan debt and you're single, 30s, mid 30s, 40s or whatever, and you're looking for a husband, and you actually come across a brother has already paid off his student loan debt, or a man like me who never signed for or had student loan debt like that in the first place, and you guys are sitting having the conversation about, like I said, possibly getting married, and y'all are talking about y'all finances, and you share with him how much student loan debt you have, do you really think he's going to seriously consider marrying you? Or that he even can consider it? Because y'all do know, in that example, if that man were to marry you and you got all the student loan debt that you have, your debt becomes his debt also. So again, do you really seriously think he's gonna consider marrying you and you have all this student loan debt hanging around your neck? And again, I mean, you may be fine as hell. The cookies may be far, far, far. But trust me, none of that matters if you got all this debt you're buried under. No reasonable, logical, wise man is going to marry you and you are buried under that much debt. Because as I said, your debt becomes his debt if y'all were to marry. So he goes into the hole. Especially if you done made it to you're almost 40 or you're in your 40s now. Nobody can afford, most people can't afford to take on a whole lot of extra debt. You're trying to situate yourself and prepare yourself for retirement, not take on a bunch of debt that you didn't even create. I mean, I know for myself, being a divorced single father, after all that was over and I got back out there on the market, I met all kind of sisters. Ooh, I remember a few of them right now. All kind of sisters that I would have been honored to be their husbands. We got along well. But they were buried under student loan debt. And there wasn't nothing I could do for them. I couldn't do nothing with them. I even had one that wanted to argue with me about that. As far as the debt becoming my debt also. She was like, no, I don't. I'm like, yes, it does. And I said, this is what I told her to do. I said, hey, you go and look that up and get some information that proves that if we were to marry, your debt does not become my debt also. You get that information and call me back and we'll talk about it. I never heard from her again. So that's just one example, y'all. Ladies, that's just one example. Many of y'all already know that. But this debt that we are burying ourselves under when there are other options, it's ridiculous for us to keep doing this. That's the point of this broadcast. To make sure we are clearly understanding there are other options, other ways to do this. An additional note, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that while your child is working, whether it's high school as well as in college, that as a parent, you are also saving money. Okay? Why? Because if something were to happen, say in the example of my student, if one of the summers during her time to finish college in her 4 years, one of the summers, say she catches the predator. Like I said, y'all here, One Brothas Mind, we call this thing we've been dealing with for the last 2 years or so, the predator. We don't call it the V word. So she catches that and ends up sick and can't work for like half of one of the summers or something like that. So she didn't make the full amount of money that she could have made if she didn't get sick. So she's short. Well, as a parent, if I'm saving money too, then I have her back. I can fill in that. What's short? That's extremely important. Okay? And a couple of more notes as we wrap this broadcast up. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, I can't talk today. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. A little earlier, I had mentioned that if you, as a parent, with your student, if you qualify for the FAFSA funding, and like in option 2, especially, your student's going to be working all of their breaks, earning money. After the first year, what's going to happen when you go to file your taxes? Say, for example, give you an exact example. The first year, your students in the first year, they're on their student loan break. They've already received their second portion of the FAFSA funding, and so they have their remaining balance to pay just to begin their second semester right over the Christmas break. Okay? Your student pays that balance. So now their second semester is paid for. They got through the first year, y'all. Okay. So then you roll into the second semester, into the new year. But now you're going to have tax season come up for the parent. And what's going to happen, at the very least, your student that's been working, when you go to file your taxes, you're not going to be able to claim your student that's been working, earning money, as a dependent. You will not be able to do that. Why? Because to claim someone as a dependent on your taxes, there is an income limit for that dependent. I think it's somewhere around about $3,000, maybe $4,000. So if your child makes more than that working, you're not going to be able to claim them anymore as a dependent. Okay? But don't worry. It's just a slight change. Go ahead and file your taxes. Do not claim, you won't be able to claim your child as a dependent. What's going to happen is your now college student child is going to have to, in the new year, file their own taxes. Okay? And when they do that, they don't have to worry about whether or not they're still going to get the FAFSA funding or qualify for it for their second year. Because remember, they're working, but they're only working during their college breaks. So they're making somewhere between let's say $10,000 to $15,000 a year at most. Okay, and as long as they stay somewhere in that window, individually, they are going to still qualify for the FAFSA funding themselves when they file their taxes for the new year. Y'all with me? So it'll just be that adjustment after the first year. If your student is working through all of their breaks, and they have to for option 2 because they have to earn the money to actually pay the remaining balance for their college tuitions. Okay? Each year. Okay? So that'll be the only switch. Okay? And then when that switch happens also, there's even additional possibilities because now they're filing as an independent person their own taxes. Their income is very low. So again, they still qualify for the FAFSA themselves, but they may also qualify for other things. There's a lot of college students that are receiving food stamps, things of that nature. Because now they're only using their income, which is it's enough to pay their college tuition, but overall it's very low. Maybe $10,000, $12,000 a year. So don't sweat that. Make sure you understand that change is going to happen. As long as they are using option 2 and they are working during all their breaks. Okay? Another additional item I want to add. Earlier in the video when we were talking about the 6th, 7th grade time frame and getting started early during your research, parents, make sure you ask. One of the biggest ways you find information out is you got to ask a bunch of different people, all the counselors and teachers and what have you. Different people know different information. And what I'm getting at is, like here in my area, we have this college scholarship program called the 21st Century Scholars. And it's an early college, let me say that again. It's an early scholarship program that you as a parent can sign your student up for in like the 6th, 7th grade, as long as you qualify for it at that time. If you qualify, you sign up, and your student is forever signed up for it. So then, all the way, when they get to the point of graduating, they now get that additional funding from that early scholarship program. Like I said, here in my area, it's called the 21st Century Scholars. In your area, they may have programs like that. Scholarships that you can sign up for early, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Ask about those types of programs. Okay? Extra money, y'all. An additional note, side note. A lot of today, in a lot of areas, in a lot of cities, there are what I describe and call college pipeline high schools. And what I mean by that is some of the colleges are opening and establishing high schools in their own name. Like, say for example, you have in your city ABC College, okay, and it's a regular top-notch Division I college. Well, ABC College may open up an ABC high school, and there are significant extra college benefits that students that attend and graduate from the ABC high school get access to that all the other students in the city do not. So look for new high schools in your area when you're doing your high school research. I call them, like I said, college pipeline high schools, but they're high schools that carry oftentimes the same name as one or a couple of your local city colleges or state colleges. And again, those students that attend those or enrolled and attend those high schools and graduate there, they're almost, carry a good GPA. They're almost guaranteed admission into those colleges and other assistance and helpful options. Okay? So don't forget, include that search in your research time for option 2 during the early days. Also, an additional note earlier when I spoke of the research to find middle schools that have higher academic standards and requirements for the students to potentially enroll your student into one of those schools in your area to help your student develop and get used to performing in regards to GPA and maintaining high GPAs and becoming a better student, learning and using better study habits and things of that nature on their own. They would get all of those types of things from a higher academic standard middle school in your area. And it would put them, as I said, in a position to be able to maintain those habits for the rest of their time through middle school and all the way to graduation of high school, which helps tremendously in regards to them being able to do that and carry a high GPA. But please note, because I did this with my student. Why, you ask? Because my student early on was attending just our regular public school, township, or the school that we live in their district. And I noticed around about the 3rd grade or so, there was some significant struggles that my student was having that shouldn't be the case. And real quick, the specific struggles she was having, like for example, was with math and some of the newer versions of math that the school and the teacher was introducing to the student. And regularly, almost daily, my child would come home and have some homework to do, and she literally did not know how to do the math homework. So I would sit for hours basically trying to reteach her how to do the new math homework she had. And of course, I'm going to teach her the old school way, the way I learned. And of course, in most cases today, in schools, they're teaching them completely different ways, new ways. So that's even confusing. So as I should, I had always went to all the parent-teacher meetings and whatnot, and the questions that I kept asking at each of these meetings was, why is she coming home and she doesn't understand how to do the homework that you are assigned? Don't y'all go over how to do the homework in class. I'm asking the teachers this during the parent-teachers meet. And I finally had one teacher, about the third, fourth grade or so, explain to me actually what they were doing today. And basically what she explained to me was, she said they introduced a new math to the students, to the class, and they spend anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes going over how to do it, showing examples on the board, all of that stuff. And then they stop that lesson and they move on to whatever the next thing, not math, something completely different that they got to cover. And she says oftentimes some of the students, they get it. It clicks with them right away, the math that they just showed them. And for other students, it doesn't click right away. They don't get it as fast. And she says what they do, they tell those students, oh, don't worry about it. We're going to go over this math again here in a few days or in a few weeks. So don't worry about it. You'll understand it more and more every time we go over it. But yet, they're giving homework to the student for that math. Okay? So basically, for all of the students in the public schools and, the way they're teaching this stuff now in most schools, they go over it briefly. If your student doesn't get it right away, it's one of those students, they move on. Whereas in contrast, in my day, when the teacher would introduce a new math that we need to learn, they would do the examples, all that, the same thing as the first part. But after the initial instruction and demonstration, instead of moving on to something completely different, they would pass out, the big old worksheets that had 20, 30 of them exact same problems that they just showed us how to do on the board. They would pass those papers out to every student, and we'd spend the rest of the class time sitting there literally doing those problems the way the teacher showed us how on the board. Okay? And what that is practice. That's math practice. That's confirming that you have learned how to do this new math problem. And while the whole class is sitting there working on these problems, the teacher's walking around through the class, looking over the shoulders of the students, and the ones that he could see or she could see, they're getting the answers right. They're like, good job. Keep doing that. The other ones that they see don't have the right answers or they're struggling, the students can raise their hands and ask for help, or they'll literally see they have the wrong answer and they'll say, okay, and you had to show your work so the teacher could see where you went wrong and help you right there. Go, now see, this is what you need to do instead of that. And all of us, I know I did plenty of times. Oh, okay. And then you do that and you go, see, there it is right there. Remember that. Now you know how to do that new math. They don't do that. That's not how they teach nowadays. They show you a blip of some instruction and demonstration, and then they just move on. And they keep showing you these demonstration 10, 15 minute little sections all the way up until it's time for the testing. And then just before the testing, on the day of the testing, they try to go over and review all these little things that they've shown you in short segments over the last few months. Because what they're trying to do is get the students to pass the test based on their temporary memory, not what they've actually learned. They haven't learned this stuff. It's just they see it for a minute. They remember how to do it just long enough to pass the test. And then as soon, 2 days after the test, you can put that same math problem in front of them. Then most of them students don't know how to do it because they never learned it. They only did it from temporary memory. That's, at least in my area, in the public schools and stuff, township schools, that's how they teach. It's insane, in my opinion. But that's what they do, y'all. So again, that's one of the additional reasons to do your research and try to find high academic standard middle schools and get your student in those schools, because many of them, especially the black ones like charter schools and stuff like that, they have programs, because they know they're accepting students from everywhere, right? And they know they have higher academic standards, right? I'm gonna give you one example. The charter school that I found, the black charter school that I found in my area for my student in middle school, fit this description. But the key thing that they had, in addition to that, they had a policy. It was for every student. Every student had to maintain a certain grade or grade percentage for every class that they had. Okay? At all times. And if any one of their classes or more, their grades dropped below a certain point, or certain grade level, then they were required to stay after school for tutoring specifically for those or that class where their grade had dropped. And they were required to do it immediately. Okay? And they didn't wait for the whole semester to end to say, oh, your grade done dropped. No, they checked and reviewed the students' grades, like, if not weekly, every other week at most. And if a student's grades had dropped in one of their classes, bam, you got to stay after for this class for tutoring help every day for the next week or two. And at least, or until we get, or you get your class grade back up above standard. And that tutoring, that extra help was free, y'all. So once the school with the higher academic standards told me that, I'm like, I'm doing this. I hurried up and took my student out of the public schools and moved her into this higher academic standard middle school. Now, obviously some of you are already thinking, it's a school with academic standards that my student was not used to. So the first semester, she had to stay after school every day. Every day. She was constantly in tutoring, trying to maintain good grades in her classes. There was not one day of that first semester she did not have to stay after school. And that's to be expected, because she just jumped in. I put her in, it's like going from the pot into the frying pan academically. So there was a lot of study habits that she had to learn and begin to incorporate. A lot of concepts, learning concepts that she had to learn because the public schools were not teaching these things, and she actually had to learn these concepts in this higher academic standard charter school. They were actually teaching her these concepts. So basically, and it was like in a rush setting in the tutoring, but she was getting one-on-one teaching. Now, once she went through a semester of that, the second semester, she didn't spend no more than about maybe a week, approximately, maybe a little more, in after school tutoring during the second semester. And that was early toward the beginning of the second semester. After that, the rest of her time through that entire middle school, she never was in tutoring anymore. Why? Because she had learned and updated the concepts and learning that she needed to learn to get caught up to the new higher academic standards. They had taught her how to become a better student and perform better academically. So she had made the adjustment, and she was smooth sailing from there. And that, as I said, that set her up to be a high academic GPA performing student on throughout high school. So trying to make sure your student is in a good high academic standard middle school has a dramatic effect, y'all. So don't sleep on that. If you can do that, you got one in your area and you can get them in, and they have a plan, a system in place that gets your student caught up to their higher standards, it is well worth it. Okay? And lastly, y'all, again, for the students, a lot of us have C students, y'all. That's just where they at. We love them all the same, but that's just where they at. They're going to be C student all through high school. That's fine. College is not their thing. Okay, school ain't their thing. All right. Make sure, like I mentioned earlier, you have them take advantage of certificate licensing vocational programs while in high school for free, so that they graduate with a certificate or license in something, so they can earn more money. That's number one. Or they can even start their own business. A lot of C students are actually have more hustle in them. Okay? And they ready to just start making money. They got a plan, and you might be able to find some early business training programs that you can sign your young hustler up for, to help them fine-tune their hustleability and their business ideas. Check around, ask people, ask questions, talk to people. You'll be amazed at the different options and programs that you might find out about. Some of these business programs might not be associated with the actual school your child attends. They might be separate. Whatever. Because going to college is not the only way, y'all. Again, here at One Brothas Mind, we focus on providing solutions, options. They may have a fire business plan, and they just need to fine tune it. Fine tune their understanding about marketing or advertisement or whatever weak points that they actually have while young. Fine tune those and then start their business. Boom, when they graduate. And they off and running. There always is other options, y'all. We have to equip our children. So let me know what y'all think, y'all. Hit me up in the comments. If you have something to add to either one of these options, list it in the comments. Other than that, let me know. And this concludes this broadcast for One Brothas Mind. My name is KD School. Can't talk. My name is KD Smooth. And I thank you for joining One Brothas Mind, a part of the new Black media, where we know B1 choices are mandatory. And being on code is required. So never fear, because Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.